Hey, everybody. My name is Jordan Tenenbaum. I'm the host of the Celigo Technology Leadership Podcast, along with my co-host, Mark Simon, who's the VP of Strategy over here at Celigo. And for the second time, back again, Martin Zerrudo. He is the Director of Enterprise Sales over at Quartile. Martin, great to have you. How you doing?
Hey, Jordan. Hey, Mark. Happy to be here a second time. I'm a little jealous. I didn't get invited back sooner, but I'm happy to be here nonetheless.
Great to have you, Martin. It's
Absolutely.
always fun to talk to you.
Yes,
Always
sir.
fun to have Martin on the pod.
Likewise.
Well, apologies it couldn't be sooner, but we might as well jump right into it.
Better late than never.
Martin, tell us a little bit about Quartile. I know it's a new role and a new position and kind of a new field.
Yeah.
What does Quartile do? What do you solve for your customers, and what's going on there?
Yeah. So, from my previous background surrounding Amazon account management, probably one of the most, if not the most important piece was campaigns, right? Campaign management, ad management, and really being able to reach a wide variety of customers, both off Amazon and on Amazon. And 6 months ago, there was an opportunity for me to join Quartile in the Director of Enterprise Sale role, where really my job is to be able to sell and essentially pitch and see if there's a good fit with brands who are looking to scale not only their sales, but also improve their ad efficiencies. And that's essentially what Quartile does. If you take a high level view, it's a tech plus team approach to ad management, to ad efficiencies, and to brand growth and ad sales. And so Quartile is the world's largest cross-channel e-commerce ad platform. We manage ads on Amazon, on Google, Walmart, Instacart, through the Criteo network. And the way we do that, like I mentioned, is the tech plus team approach. So I'll start with the team first. We have over 350 team members worldwide. I want to say 80% of them are channel strategists, whether that's SEO, Amazon, Google, different marketplaces, product engineers who are developing all the tech in the background. So what's the tech side of our ad piece or ad services? It's proprietary AI technology that allows us to make very specific AI-based bid adjustments to campaigns across the board at scale. So what that means is whether you're selling one product that has 10 campaigns or you have a huge catalog of 1,000 SKUs with 10 campaigns each, our tech is able to, at scale, make those optimized bid adjustments, not based off of any kind of subjective changes or assumptions on what we should make adjustments for based off of the conversion. It's literally hourly bid optimizations based off of what Amazon is feeding to us at that time, as well as historical data, sales trends, seasonal trends. All of that is being factored in our back-end algorithm to make the most efficient bid change for our customers.
Wow, that's some pretty high-level stuff. Thank you for clarifying. And
I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. Even for me, I swear to God, it does. I promise.
Okay, cool.
Mark, I know you've been kind of itching to ask some AI related questions, so I'll open it to you now. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, Martin, AI is like such a topical thing lately. Like you can't go anywhere. Whether it's my 96-year-old grandmother asking me about AI or the neighbor or something, let alone your CEO or the board. Everybody's looking at it almost regardless of size. The kind of the evolution of the generative AI and language models, et cetera, have really changed the game in the last few months. So everybody's aware of it. But I'm curious. I mean, Quartile's been doing this for a while, right? It's not like you're just moving in here. Or I'm curious. How long Quartile's been leveraging and building AI technologies and focusing on ad management in this way, because I think that really matters a lot right now, because it's hard to tell who's really got depth of experience and who's just sort of jumping in the last couple months, right?
Who's a fly-by-night white label chat GPT service? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is popping up almost every week.
Everywhere.
So great question. So Quartile started, 5 or 6 years ago. Our CEO Daniel and a bunch of co-founders from Brazil, came up with this idea of, let's talk about traditional, Amazon campaign structure. So you'll pick a product you want to advertise, the type of advertising you want to do, where you want to place it, and then the type of keywords that you want to target. Now, in this traditional ad structure, you're going to have more than one keyword. Right. And when you perform or run these ads, You'll get certain KPIs that will show whether or not it's running well or not. The challenge with this is you won't necessarily know through the traditional Amazon ad console what keyword or key phrase is really driving that performance, because it's grouped into these campaigns. And so what Daniel and the co-founders decided was, what if we created a one-to-one structure? So for every single one of your products, we'll create a campaign for one ASIN or SKU, one match type, and one keyword, right? And have singular placements to determine what placement, what keyword, what match type is really driving the conversions. That's what they eventually would call Quartile 1. Now, at the beginning of the company, this is what they revolutionized, was this Quartile 1 approach, but the bidding would be done through AI, right? Because traditionally it was very manual, and depending on how great your internal resource was or how great the agency was that you're utilizing, your mileage may vary on how effective their subjective bid changes were. So Quartile 1, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so with that model then, Martin, with Quartile 1, a typical company might have been grouping things into these campaigns that were sometimes fairly large buckets, and
Absolutely.
they didn't really have the visibility and the granularity, if I'm following.
Correct.
And with this model, you said, no, that you don't have the granularity you need. So you create these very fine-grained, precise buckets, but then that creates I would assume, a management problem if you were doing it manually. So you've got way too many to manage. Am I following properly?
No, 100%. And that's actually one of the challenges that the company encountered earlier, was like, okay, well, if it's going to make a whole bunch of campaigns for me, how do I manage this? Well, that's where the AI comes in, right? So the scalability of that campaign structure is dependent on the AI being able to make those those automated changes. Because unlike a computer, we have to sleep. And unlike a computer, we have different time zones in terms of when we're awake, when the brand owners are awake, when the customers are awake. And so 24 hours of a day requires a level of granular adjustments, whether you have it bucketed into a whole bunch of keywords or whether you have them all broken up into singular campaigns. There still needs to be, at scale, some sort of automated monitoring to make your bid adjustments are performing really well. How has that changed now that it's 2023, 5 or 6 years later? About 2 years ago, Quartile was part of a closed beta that was helping Amazon develop what is now called the Amazon Marketing Stream. And so Amazon Marketing Stream, or AMS, will provide people who are connected to their API hourly data, conversion rate, cost per click, average order value. So now we're not just dependent on downloading reports and seeing what the results are. We're actually getting that information hourly in real time. I think the refresh window is like every 15 minutes, which is fantastic. The advantage that Quartile has over others who have access to AMS is that because of our relationship with Amazon, we were able to integrate the AI-based bid optimization into AMS. So we remove the need to download the AMS data, plug it into any other either manual or automated process, and then make those changes. It's happening in real time in synergy of one another. As the AMS data comes in, the bid optimization happens through Quartile's platform. And on top of that, so we have a third awesome change, which happened, I think, late last year, is Quartile Versa. Another way where, say, Mark, you came to me and said, I love the Quartile 1 structure, but I'm an amazing PPC ninja. And the campaigns that I perform or created are performing super fantastic. I love the bid optimization side of what Quartile does, but I want to keep the structure. Can you help me? Traditionally, we couldn't. A year and a half ago, we introduced Versa, which allows us to import your campaigns, Mark, and then layer the bid tech on top. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, whether you want to do the Quartile 1 approach, where it's very granular, or you want to import your really high effective campaigns, totally up to you.
So you can still bring in, if you've got a strong team, you can still bring in your own special sauce, so to speak.
Exactly.
And leverage that with the bid optimization tool.
Exactly. Because sometimes brands will switch out services and they'll go to us, but agencies who already have great relationships with their brands and have great existing internal PPC teams just need a tool that'll help them scale what they're currently doing. And so we're not about, replacing or change management or anything like that. We're providing that service to these agencies that they can import their already hard, well-tested campaigns and scale from there.
That's super cool. So with the platform, you're getting you're getting performance monitoring. So I mean, it's the performance monitoring of the campaigns and the management, and then because it's using the Amazon Marketplace streaming, you're getting that all with really tight frequency. So you're getting you don't have to wait. Yeah, okay, that makes I mean, I see the value there. I mean, it's been a long time. Kind of going back into my history a little bit, where I actually I was managing ad campaigns or teams doing that, but the principles of that have like always stuck with me, even when I've become more removed. And just the measurability, right? First of all,
No,
you have,
absolutely.
how tight can you get this measurability? And I've seen that working with clients in my consulting past, working with customers at Celigo, and we'll talk to a CMO and they'll tell us, oh, hey, and I don't really have, I don't get my return on investment on a campaign or ad spend for like a month, 30 days. And that's like, and it's an eternity. And so what I've seen is if it's the longer your window, the more you're either missing out on opportunities where you should be spending
100%.
more, or you're overspending when you should be dialing it back. Like you're not getting the return you need. So you're always sort of out of, not quite in alignment. So if you bring that frequency down, right?
No, absolutely. It's crazy because if you look at the AMS in our portal, maybe I can share a screenshot, or like you can share, Jordan, as like a promotion post of this, but it will show you at 12 o'clock conversion rate is like 12. At 1 a.m. it's like 11. At 2 a.m. it's like 8%. And then slowly but surely, as we get closer to 6 a.m., 7 a.m., that conversion rate is going up. Now, for regular, Joes like us, what does that really matter? Half a percentage point here, a percentage point there. If you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on ad spend, and you can throttle or ramp up ad spend based off of these minute changes in conversion rate, that's equating to thousands upon thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of sales within the hour. And if you're not looking at those and making adjustments, whether it's a manual solution, hey, maybe you have a team that has 24-hour coverage, great, or an automated solution, it's still money on the table. And so you're 100% right. If you're not constantly looking back and making these optimization changes, that opportunity window is gone. Right? Every hour during every day is different for every product, for every season, for every trend that's happening currently, right? So while that information is coming, how are you leveraging it, right? What is your solution to leverage that conversion data?
I have a quick question, Martin. So when it comes to accounting for seasonal changes or annual changes or things like that, I think it's very clear why or how Quartile does that and why it's helpful. Now, coming from a social media perspective, let's say Walmart is a customer perhaps, and they drop a new ad campaign that starts to go incredibly viral, think Barbie or Oppenheimer viral, where it's all over the place where it doesn't need to be. Does Quartile incorporate any other social listening or online listening or video or radio listening to catch those trends that maybe aren't seasonal or annual and incorporate them into ad spend or bid optimization?
So great question. And this is actually kind of my segue to this little experiment I did before the call that I was going to surprise you both with. So as it relates to how does the ads and the functionality of our automated bid service relate to other things that are happening in the business? The primary concern, at least for our services, is inventory, because whether external factors, either social virality or other supply traffic sources, is increasing the amount of conversions and sales for a particular product, we're always looking at inventory, regardless of where that traffic and attention is coming from. So if inventory starts to get really, really low and the sales velocity is like skyrocketing for some reason, the platform will be able to notify us as well as a brand that, hey, this thing is skyrocketing. Either we don't want to stock out, so do we throttle back? So that gives you a little bit more time, or hey, you're like, I'm fine, a shipment's going to be here in the next couple of days. If we stock out, great, just ramp it up and let's take advantage of the virality. So it's very much focused on inventory, which allows you to have a level playing field, whether it's coming from Meta or TikTok or Google. So long as you have the inventory and there's a strategy in place to either ramp up or throttle down your ad spend, then you're pretty much covered as it relates to Quartile. Having said that, I know that I'm here to talk about Quartile. I don't want to just keep plugging Quartile. I do want to talk about the awesomeness about Celigo. Right. And of course, we have Celigo audience members here as well. So what I did, since Celigo is all about automation, first mindset, quote unquote, Mark Simon, and Quartile is all about automation as well, I went on ChatGPT, our automation AI friend, And I said, hey, ChatGPT, give me 3 hypothetical scenarios for how Celigo and Quartile could integrate and help one another. How can Quartile services and Celigo services help a brand that might be utilizing both, right? So I've got 3 scenarios for you. Number 1, say an e-commerce brand wants to retarget previous customers with products that complement past purchases, right? So the integration piece would be using Celigo. If a business has a really extensive CRM or customer database, that's a really significant source of first-party data. How does that first-party data translate to any of the ad efficiencies or ad strategies that Quartile could do? Well, we can ingest that first-party data into an Amazon DSP campaign that Quartile would run, and it will allow us to be more specific and more targeted with any of the demographics and the audiences and the lookalike audiences that we would go after, whether it's new to brand, repeat purchases, people who are purchasing products that are complementary, people who are purchasing products from your competitors. All of that first-party data that is already flowing through the automations of Celigo can also be integrated to a Quartile DSP platform campaign, and they work hand in hand, right? That information is already there. The wealth of that information is in Celigo. Why not use it also for an automated campaign through DSP with Quartile? So that's scenario 1. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's great. So if I heard you correctly, Martin, that would be taking the historical sales and customer data the customer
Correct.
already has in it, likely in their ERP. That very likely, if they're using Celigo already, they've pulled out of their multiple sales channels. So maybe their web stores, obviously their Amazon marketplace, if they got a
Correct.
Walmart presence, etc. Pulled those into the ERP, but we can feed that back out to something like that, and then that would drive, essentially, Quartile would leverage that data to make smarter decisions about the cross-sell, upsell opportunities, the purchasing relationships.
Absolutely.
Between that.
Because the thing is, when you're
That's super
creating
cool.
programmatic ads through DSP, it's only going to be as good as how you set up the campaign. And if it doesn't have any existing first-party data, then it's going to learn, and it's going to be as efficient as it can be as it ramps up. But if you ingest all of that first-party data that already exists, that's coming from multiple sources that Celigo has already, aggregated together, then you're opening the floodgates, and you're way ahead of your competition who isn't using a joint solution like a Celigo/Quartile. But I have a second scenario. Okay, so let's say we have a fashion brand, sells all their really great products online, all their different clothes. However, as we know with fashion, there's a lot of frequent returns because the sizes might be wrong. The feedback, it doesn't feel right. I thought it was going to fit a certain way. The material's not nice, right? So here's the integration piece. Say the fashion brand is using Celigo and they have a return management system, right? Or some sort of customer feedback portal. All of that is automated. All of that information is there. Theoretically, you could take that information and connect it to Quartile and say, hey, if it triggers a threshold of returns, maybe we launched a new product, people want to buy it, but for whatever reason, what we shipped out, this particular palette has an issue, right? Or we shipped out a certain product, and for whatever reason, the messaging was incorrect, the sizing was incorrect. We can actually throttle back or adjust the level of ad spend, knowing that we don't want to compound the issue. Right. So there's another integration where competitors might be selling hand over fist, but they're not going to find out that these things need to be returned. They're not going to find out that there's an issue with their product until they go through that entire process. And none of that is automated. But at scale, if there's an RMS system existing, if there's a customer feedback portal that's already automated, that data can be utilized to integrate to your ads so that you're not compounding the problem, and you're also you're increasing your ad efficiencies because you're not selling a product that eventually is going to have to be returned. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. That is really interesting. So instead of taking just essentially the raw margin, which is always an input to this, the margin, the inventory, you're essentially would be able then to take the return data and the essentially the return percentage and reason, because you'd be able to take like apparel, whether it's a quality issue, quality reason codes differentiated from sizing reason codes, for example, and use that to essentially adjust the margin calculation on the fly by taking that into account.
Yeah. And then tell, hey, Quartile, we're hitting certain thresholds here where it's not profitable for us. We're getting way too many returns, or for whatever reason, the sizing or the listing is incorrect. Let's throttle it down. Let's not waste money. Let's catch it now, fix it, and then we throttle back up and not waste any of that velocity or virality at the time.
That's really cool. That's very Toyota has a production kind of philosophy that's very similar, that if anyone sees any issue during the production line from start to finish, any worker on the floor can press a button and stop it, and the executives will come in, they'll figure out what the issue is, and then they'll fix it, so that rather than dealing with callbacks or recalls or things like that, they say,
Yep.
like, hey, we realize that there's a problem, let's fix it now. I mean, obviously this is a little bit extended metaphor, but
No, it makes total sense.
let's fix it now and not have to deal with not only the cost of it, but like customer perception, brand perception, people complaining online, cars breaking down, people
Yeah.
potentially being injured or even dying, things like that. And obviously with clothing sales, hopefully that would not happen. Hopefully,
Maybe my look will die, but I won't die. But
yeah,
to your point and to that example, it's a lot of peace of mind. So instead of somebody having to press a button at an assembly line, it's automated for you. It'll be caught by Celigo, it'll be caught by Quartile, and it'll be an automated decision so that when you go to sleep, and I'm sure people who are listening who've been managing brands and campaigns before have gone to sleep one time, woke up in the morning, and they're like, what the hell happened to our sales? Or like, what the hell happened to this campaign? Right? And that happens when nobody, you're quote unquote asleep at the wheel or nobody's watching. But in a world of e-commerce where it's a 24-hour sales cycle across every time zone, there needs to be a solution for the information that's coming through and the actionable things that we can do with that information. That all has to have some sort of automated solution because your competitors will, right?
100%.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think that's really relevant to a ton of our customers, because we work with so many customers that are like a lot of e-commerce companies that are at an inflection point. So it's whether they're a large organization and they're sort of just launching their e-commerce channel or just scaling, or they're entirely and it's just a one channel for them, or it's fully dedicated. They're often working with us because they need to automate it, and
Right.
it's because of they're scaling out their go-to-market. So they might have had a successful direct North America channel, direct sales, or just Amazon, and now they're starting to broaden it out. And and typically it's going globally. They're saying, hey, okay, we want to launch we want to launch 10 or 12 Amazon in 10 or 12 Amazon marketplaces over the next year, so we can be very targeted by country, or maybe maybe sub brand, for example. Same thing with Shopify, and so they end up with that very same situation. Now they went from having one store and one marketplace 18 months ago,
Yeah.
to now they've got 20 stores and marketplaces combined all around the world. And that's very much like a topical concern, because these things are now increase the volume. The team aren't necessarily scaling out the e-commerce management teams to monitor those things 24/7. That's really interesting. I mean, seems like a great way to address that without having to add more bodies, more people monitoring that. What's going on.
I mean, and that's the great thing too, right? Whether it's Celigo or Quartile, like an automated solution at scale is meant to be cost effective. For those that we talk to and they're like, oh my God, it's going to cost this, it's going to cost that. But what we're talking about is the opportunity cost of not doing it, right? And like the peace of mind and the payroll in order to try and match that coverage, which we know is never going to be one-to-one, because you can't outscale a scalable automated solution. That's literally the purpose for why it exists, right? Okay, but last one. This was my favorite example.
Real quick, Martin.
Yeah, sure.
Just before we get to the third option, for those of you who are hearing Martin, who are listening and saying, wow, the potential partnerships between Celigo and Quartile seem infinite, I would encourage you to check out celigo.com/partners. That is celigo.com/partners. All right, Martin, let's hear that third example.
There you go. And for anybody who signs up from Celigo gets, I believe, a 55% discount off Quartile services. So you heard it here first. Oh man. But lastly, okay. And Mark can cover the other 5%, so it might be 60%. No, I'm just kidding. So lastly, say there's, I'm sure all of us have at some point subscribe to like a subscription box service, whether it's like groceries or randomized like chocolates or socks or ties or what have you. So here's something that I thought was super interesting, right? So say there's a brand that sells subscription boxes and they know that there's a segment of their customers that are nearing the end of their subscription, right? 2 weeks out, 2 months out. Celigo obviously will have access, and all that information is automated. They have a subscription management software that is connected. All that information is running through. You can integrate that to Quartile's, again, Amazon DSP, and ingest that first party data and say, hey, run specific ads to this segment of audience where we know they're going to run out of their subscription in 2 months, or they're going to run out of their subscription in 2 weeks, or you want to bring them back after they've canceled. Again, there's so many opportunities in using these automation solutions that already exist and synergizing them together to make really compelling adjustments to your ad strategy and overall brand strategy, right? Like if you have the ability to access information, the next question is, okay, how do I use this information to grow my business, right? How do I use this information to capture and leverage behavioral purchasing, either patterns or how this information is going from one end to another? How do I capitalize that, right? And I think it's such a compelling combination, right? Like Quartile is one sliver, ads, right? Celigo, which is why it's been super successful, is able to cover a wide variety of integrations across a wide variety of different departments and tech stacks, which is fantastic. But if we're talking about e-commerce and products and sales, right? This is the 1-2 punch here. You have the information through Celigo. What's the uppercut that's going to knock them out, right? What's the other additional tech stack piece in this equation that's going to give you the advantage every hour, every single day, whether it's a fashion brand, subscription brand, a new brand trying to enter the market, or an existing blue chip brand that's really trying to find new ways to grow in different marketplaces. For me, it's a no-brainer. And that's why I've been in e-commerce now, I want to say about 5+ years. And every year I meet people like Mark, I meet people like Jordan, and it's so compelling to see how quickly our space changes and adapts. And what I love is having conversations about how we can continue to move forward and not stagnation. Because if you think everything is going to stay the same, tell me that in 2019. If you think everything was going to stay the same, tell me that after the pandemic, right? The market will always change. And so the best thing you can do is be ready and be open to an automation first mindset that gives you the speed to adapt to that change.
I think the other thing that's, you're 100% correct. And it always surprises me when very large, like enterprise level organizations, like I'm thinking the big dogs like Walmart or,
right,
Nike or places like that are, like even maybe 5-10 years ago, like Sears or Mervyn's or places like that like have kind of fallen behind because they didn't take advantage of every single opportunity that is automation first or technology first. And I think it just kind of, that's obviously me being 30 years old and thinking to what's not around since I was 15. But I mean, those are the businesses that fell behind and they did not adopt the type of mindset or technology that we've been talking about and talking about its importance. And so I just think that, of course, smaller businesses, younger business owners are probably a little more hip to it. But I think that as larger businesses kind of and enterprises really like realize how important that is, it's going to be interesting to see what changes in the next 3, 5, 10 years, because it's only changing at an exponential rate. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to echo what you said there, Martin.
No, for sure. I'm part of actually oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark. I think you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say that it speaks to business agility. We spent a lot of time talking to our customers about that, especially if they don't quite see the vision for automation yet. And they're like, oh, we know we should do something, but they're kind of on the fence. And it's you lay out the value of agility as a business to be able to automate more, frees you up to react fast, especially if you build it the right way. I can remember 20 years ago building an automated e-commerce company and kind of ahead of its time, really taking automation first approach, but having to hand code things or build a team to code everything up. And it was well worth it, even as a small, fast growing company. But now you fast forward and the tools are 100 times better and it's easier. And you can go back and change it, and you can use completely different resources. It's, that the level of agility is way, way higher with that.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that rate of change, Martin, and that's really like e-commerce of any industry I've worked with or in, to me, changes faster. Its pace of change is so high. It is incredibly hard to keep up as a business. And so you really got to focus your energies on what you're doing well, and like put them there where you're adding value as a business leader, and then try to automate everything else where you're not adding value. Getting your product out the door is you must do that really well. But there shouldn't be manual steps in there. That's just going to hold you back as a company. Focus on where your value add is to your customers, where you're creating that experience and community, or originating through product, or whatever experience you may be creating.
No, absolutely. To piggyback off of that, like what I thought was so interesting, leading up to our conversation today was, okay, say we take the Chat GPT example, which I think is the most broad application of automation that, the masses would understand, right? Look at how that has absolutely upturned the apple cart. Let's just say, out of all the different businesses, let's just say copywriting. I used to write copy for a wide variety of different clients. And I still love to write copy. And do I think ChatGPT is going to replace a copywriter's ability to, relate to the human experience? Not necessarily, but it's a tool that I think, instead of me having to do the heavy lifting, I'm just making some slight adjustments. I'm just making some slight editorial changes, some subjective tones and changes so that it sounds a little bit more human. But it's completely upturned copywriting, right? Let's pause there. If ChatGPT in this one area has completely revolutionized our approach through this automation, let's take Celigo now. Finance and accounting, supply chain logistics, sales and CRM, human resources, marketing, customer support, product management. Imagine if Celigo could be your ChatGPT for all of those different departments through some form of automation, right? That's the vision there. I'm almost like I'm talking like I work for Celigo, but that's the, you know what I mean? But that's the opportunity. That's the business agility. You don't have to wait for a Chat GPT to change one part of your business. Celigo exists already, just like with ad management. You don't need to wait for a Chat GPT to come and automate your ads. Quartile exists already. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a significantly huge company to leverage these solutions. I'm in a Slack channel. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I'm in a Slack channel that tells us whenever a new customer, a new client, or a new brand signs up for Quartile. And it tells us the size of these brands. Now, I'm on the enterprise side. Obviously, our sales cycles are a little bit longer and our deals are a little bit more different. But every day between 10 to 20 is a slow day where I see new small to mid-sized businesses signing up to our automated services, because it's not cost prohibitive when you see the long-term value of automation. And that's just in ad sales. And when I listed all those different functions that a business needs to scale, that's what Celigo can do for you. And it doesn't have to be $1 million. I'm sure Mark can give a really great discount. But the point is, the opportunity is there if you see what the tool can do. And for me, that's what I find super exciting about my job. I work from home. I open the windows, I log in, I talk about automation all day long. Right. And for me, I find it super exciting because it's not like a fly by night solution. It's not like, oh, we're going to be here and then gone tomorrow. It's not some like NFT promise that it's going to, change your life overnight. This is a process of scale, a process of automation, a change in the way you approach business. And it's a train that you got to get on.
Yeah, you hit on that really well, Martin. And one of the things that you mentioned there, it's kind of in passing, the integration to Slack, right? You're getting sales data that's pushed into the Slack channel. When we think of the integration that we do at Celigo, we pride ourselves that we're doing tons of back office integration. We're doing typically almost all of our customers, 95% of them, we're bringing their transactional data. But what's really interesting is and something that's simple, that's way easier than that, because you have to, when we're dealing with financial data, you have to get it right and nail it. But one thing that's like really easy, incredibly high value, is integrations like that, like collaboration integrations, where you take data that's happening, that's in one system, and then you share it across the company through Slack or Microsoft Teams or through another mechanism. And whether it's your top deals that have come through today, you can use it for the, essentially a win wire like that, which is great. We can also use it in many other ways. Okay, what sending out to a team in the warehouse, or the team managing your 3PLs when you've got orders for MVP customers that have exceeded their ship time thresholds, and now it pops up and it's right in front of them. Hey, we've got 10 orders that exceeded the threshold all of a sudden, and it's right there in front of them. And these things are those are actually really they're super easy to build integrations if you have the right tools, but they provide a lot of value because they start connecting your applications together. Like it starts bringing information, instead of being locked in a system somewhere, out, hands to the team that can take action, have visibility, and move forward to usually improve a customer experience. I mean, ultimately.
No, and that's the thing, right? It's like you're not, nothing against brick and mortar. It's not a mom and pop store in the corner, right? It's a global marketplace, and we have to start thinking about all the different ways in which information can be passed from one section of your business to another at the speed and agility that you're able to capture the global customer, right? And it's not difficult. It's not. Have a pitch with Mark. It'll probably take about 45 minutes. Mine will probably take 45 minutes. And in 2 hours, your business has changed,
100%. We've been going for almost 45 minutes, and so I just want to
apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. I want to make sure that we don't take up too much of your time, Martin. I have a question, and again, I'm clearly not as deep in bid optimization or integration and automation as both you and Mark are. But I'm kind of curious, it seems like right now AI is obviously the hot topic that we've been discussing, in automation and integration. In terms of, it could be automation, it could be integration, it even could be bid optimization, but what's next maybe on your radar, and what's next on Quartile's radar, and where do you see that growing? Is that adopting languages of the world in order to have e-commerce businesses reach every single country and city? Is that some different type of machine learning that's incorporated into the AI base layer that Quartile is doing? What's next for kind of on your plate, and what's next for Quartile?
Well, depending on when this comes out, if anybody's going to be at Accelerate next week, we're at booth 160. Please stop by and we can talk to you a lot about some of the things that are coming down the pipeline. We do have a lot of new product changes that are coming. We're going to be at Accelerate. If anybody's going to be at Expo East, I'll be there as well. Anybody's going to be at Unboxed in October in New York, I'll be there as well. We'll be there as well. But in terms of, what does the landscape look like in terms of Quartile and e-commerce as a whole? So, we've talked a lot about ChatGPT. I'm expecting the check in the mail from, I forgot who the founder was, who's now filthy rich. But as it relates to additions that we've done recently, we've integrated large language learning models into our platform as it relates to keywords and key phrases. What are the keywords, key phrases that we can integrate in some of these campaigns? And use these models to be more targeted as it relates to our ad campaigns. Unfortunately, I'm not a sales engineer, so I can't explain it a little bit more granular than that. But essentially, what we're doing is, instead of just looking at numerical bids, we're also looking at how we can utilize large language models to adjust the key phrases and keywords that we're targeting and utilizing in our various ads across the different channels and marketplaces that we provide services to. And that's what Mark is talking about the agility, right? ChatGPT, blasted into the scene a couple of months ago, and then boom, now it's part of our platform. And that's the thing, to be quite frank, with SaaS offerings and tech, whether it's ad tech or ed tech or any, fintech, any kind of business that's relying on the unique value proposition of your tech offering has to have that agility. If something new comes up, how do we adjust to that? Not only the subjective, hey, is ChatGPT part of your services? Because I saw this thing on TikTok, and do you guys do that? People are going to want to know that. So you got to capture that new to brand. You got to capture people who are like, oh, I'm turned on to automation. Let me know more about that. ChatGPT, how do you guys? And then the middle to the bottom of the funnel is the more sophisticated. Okay, I'm already with you. I've already considered using you. How are you adapting to the ever-changing landscape of automation and all these tools that are happening? And I think that's the great thing about Celigo. The great thing about Quartile is we have that mindset that we're not going to wait and say, hey, we've got a great AI or automated tool. We're good with that. We're good with 100 million. We're good with 200 million. We're good with our brands doing however many million. No, it's got to be a constant iteration and change. And the thing too with that is that initially we started with Amazon, and then Walmart was like, hey, let's team up with Microsoft because we want to do this whole e-commerce thing too. And then the pandemic happened, and then boom, Instacart came about, and now people are trying to do things outside of just buying from these marketplaces. And they want to buy from stores, but they want that automated and delivered to them as well. And then we were talking about I was at Super Zoo 2 weeks ago, which is like the world's biggest global pet conference. And I spoke to probably 20 different people from across the country. They're all coming up with their own grooming websites, their own product marketplaces. Everybody is creating their own marketplace and platform on a wide variety of different marketplaces and channels. How do we serve all of these people? How do we provide an automation solution to all of these people? And that's what's happening at Quartile, is we're not just dealing with, how do we grow at the very top, but what are the things that are happening with startups, with new small businesses, with new ideas that are coming from left field, and you're like, wait a minute, that could use a little bit of automation, that could use a little bit of adaptation to our system. And the next thing you know, that's being adapted across the board. Like I said, everybody's using AMS now. We were on that AMS train 2 years ago, so we're ready to make that change. And there's a lot of things that I wish I could say that I don't want to get in trouble for, but that change definitely is coming.
I'm gonna flip that real quick, Mark, before you ask a question. And I'm going to ask you this, Mark, because, I'm not an executive. I don't always know exactly what's going on and at the top level of Celigo. And I think our listeners would probably be relatively interested. But to the same extent, what's on your plate in terms of automation or integration or AI specifically, Mark? And what's coming with Celigo? We obviously just released a very big press release, kind of talking about the history of AI at Celigo that's been going on since 2019. We recently have a suite of new AI enhanced features that have been released to the public. So what's that about, Mark? And what's kind of coming in the next 6 months, year, 2 years that you can talk about? I don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, that's great, Jordan. Your timing's really good because I just spent the last 2 days talking about this with our exec team. One of the things for us is we saw the future of AI. We're an automation company, and AI is just another tool in the automation toolbox. And we saw the potential of this several years ago, and at the time said, hey, we need to be leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning. We built a small team centered around that, and that started focusing on it, started in 2019. And that led, we focused on first at error management in the platform, how to manage the errors, because one of the biggest things we saw customers struggling with was the quantity of errors coming through, and how to differentiate ones that action should be taken, really get rid of the noise. And so that was a big investment that led to our what we call our error management 2.0, which is really a big differentiator for us in the iPaaS space, because it leverages so much of that artificial intelligence, a model based on the thousands of customers we have, and the millions of integration errors we see, and those integration errors are coming from essentially data problems that filter through, that make their way through. Well, we can identify those patterns and then apply solutions, recommend solutions. In a lot of cases, actually, if you allow it, actually take action to resolve those errors. So that was where we started. And, honestly, in some ways, we haven't done a good job of telling that story, because a few years, people, you said AI, people really didn't care that much about it. They were focused. So we were focused on the business solution, not necessarily how we got to that business solution. But that's been something we've had invested in, and is really foundational. But it means that we've got this, we've been there, and we have an understanding already of this space, like Quartile does. We didn't just sort of show up a few months ago and say, hey, we're just going to take our product and start slapping Chat GPT on it. Now, with the prevalence and the massively increased capabilities of tools like ChatGPT, it has opened up a whole other layer of capabilities within our product. And what really that is because we're focused so much on power with ease of use, right? Allowing like, what do you think of as, not traditionally technical business users accomplish things, a tech savvy business user building flows, building automations on their own, and not just having to be a developer. Well, that's a really interesting area because we can close that gap, because still there's some things that are best done with a developer in our platform. And because of that, what it allows us to do is the new AI tools are allowing us to close that gap. So you don't need to go in maybe and write SQL or use a SQL editor tool if you're writing a query against a database, but just write in natural language how you that you want to pull from this table and join with data from here, and it'll actually write those statements for you. It'll help you tune an expression, help you write JavaScript. So closing that gap between what a business user can do and what a developer can do, but that there's tremendous value in that because the business user knows the business process. And so that's really just like accelerating what someone could already do. And then in the third area that we see, which is really big for us, is basically using our tool to help customers create AI solutions. Meaning, what you've heard us Martin talking about through this whole podcast is about data here, feeding data into their AI engine core. So all AI models rely on data and quality data to be successful. And so what we're doing is we're allowing customers to move that data, create higher quality data within their organization, and then also create some really cool solutions with tools that are readily available, like OpenAI, ChatGPT. Consume, say, data from your knowledge base, your support platform, your maybe an online community portal, bring all of these together in one spot, and then allow customers or your internal team to ask natural language questions and get results back. I mean, that's an example of something we did already just with our platform, wiring these different sources of data and then plugging into putting the data into ChatGPT and then integrating with Slack, basically integrating Slack to ChatGPT, so you can use an interface that's right there and ask questions, just natural language, and it comes back and gives you the answer, and also where it found the answer, how accurate it thinks the answer is, and maybe some alternate ones. So you'd be like, oh, you know what? This is it didn't do so well. This is a flyer, but you can identify it and move on. But 95% of the time, it's saving someone tremendous research time. So, and that's just one example. We're seeing a lot of those things, and it's actually kind of creating almost like a new sort of business process type, which is this AI-centered business process type. It's kind of injecting in other areas where it's a tremendous opportunity for companies of all sizes to use what they have, which is their own data, and get a much higher value out of it.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you, man. I think it's always cool just to, for our listeners. So I mean, for Martin, for myself, just to kind of hear that broken down in an easy to understand way. So thank you for that, Mark. And I know you had a question earlier. Sorry if I completely threw you off.
No, all good. All good, Jordan.
Awesome. Okay, well, getting close to that time. We've had you on for quite a while, Martin, and as usual, it has been a pleasure. Any last words from anyone before?
Yeah, I do want to say, since you knew I was going to say something, here it goes. We talk a lot about AI automation, and in my role, in enterprise sales, and especially in our space in e-commerce, what I think can't be replaced with automation, what can't be replaced with AI, really is the genuine connections you make. Not only in our space, but just as human beings. Like for myself and Mark, we've been friends and we've been able to nurture that relationship. And outside of trying to help one another out and seeing if there's an opportunity his way or my way, like it's fun to have conversations with him because we've nurtured a great relationship, right? We have a great professional friendship. I haven't seen him in person. I hope he's not taller than me, but I feel like he is. He's really great with outdoor winter sports. I live in Toronto and I haven't done anything, so it puts me to shame already. So I'm already at two disadvantages. Hopefully he can't sing because I can't sing either. But if he can, then that's strike 3 for me.
I'm a horrible singer. So
all right. I have a chance. But yeah, that for me, that's what really drives the excitement to be in a space like e-commerce, the excitement to talk about about automation and to pitch it and talk about how it can help brands grow is because I'm friends with Mark. It makes me feel like when he wins, I win. When I win, hopefully he feels like he wins. And then when I see what you do online, on LinkedIn, like the social media managing that you do of Celigo's brand, sure, maybe you can use ChatGPT to come up with a content calendar. Maybe you can come up with the captions, but the genuine, authentic human creativity you put in the things that you do makes a difference. And that's why for us, it's like Quartile's tech plus team. The automation is the tech. Celigo is the tech. Quartile is the tech. But who is the team? Who is the team that's pushing it forward? Who is the team that's thinking outside of what you've set in the algorithm to come up with something new? And that, for me, is the most exciting out of everything, is that as effective and as amazing and as scalable as automation can be, do it with people you want to do it with people who are in it with you to win it with you. That part for me, outside of automation, the human side of it, is the best part.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think as all of us grow, unfortunately older, but fortunately wiser, I think
hopefully wiser.
Hopefully wiser.
A little bit at a time, but I
Yeah.
think that's kind of, I mean, I've realized that, speaking for myself, is that, the work is fun, the automation is fun, but it's if you can find the people that you really enjoy working with and that you connect with, it makes the work and the grind and the hustle like so much more not only valuable and worth it, but just like fun and easy. And I think if you're slogging through life, trudging through the mud, and not really smiling and laughing and having fun along the way, and you're just in a rut thinking about your job, it's hard to grow. It's hard to embrace things like AI or automation or even just basic positivity. And so I think developing these relationships and having you on multiple times, Martin, and Mark, for the opportunity to have you on and chat about these things from someone on the team that probably normally wouldn't talk to you is not only important for all of us, but I think it's very emblematic of Quartile. It's emblematic of Celigo. It's emblematic of Martin. It's emblematic of you, Mark. Just because those are good things to strive to do in life, and I'm very thankful to have you both on the podcast. And now I feel like we're in like a campfire to Kumbaya session.
It's a TED Talk. It's turned into a TED Talk, and I like it.
Well, awesome. I will stop talking now. Anything else from your end, Martin, before we
no, Mark, anything else? You and I both got a chance. I don't know if Mark had some.
No,
Sorry,
it's good. I will not talk about my feelings here, so we're all right.
All right. Well, I will say next time there will be a singing competition for those of you who are still listening.
Total Eclipse of the Heart. It's coming. Here we go.
I'll do Tomorrow from Annie the musical. That's the only song I can memorize.
Mark's coming with some 90s hardcore rap. I can't wait.
I'm Jordan. I'm the social media manager over here at Celigo. Martin Zerrudo, the director of enterprise sales at Quartile. Thank you so much for having us. And Mark, as always, my wonderful co-host, the VP of strategy at Celigo. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you made it this far, we have a whole bunch of fantastic new episodes with really cool guests from some very interesting and very large companies coming up. We can't wait to see you guys at the next episode. See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys. Bye.